Okay, welcome back to a ShopDog-Garage video. It's going to be a motorcycle video. Got a little bit of time tonight. Wife's playing her monster killing game. So we're going to come out here and try to get this a little further along. I don't think I recorded altering this to make this all lay down nice so that the gas tank sits in here and does not rub. But we now have this all nice. And you can see it's secured. I'll show you. Right here in the web. So nicely secured, but could be undone if you needed to. The one thing I don't have a good feel for is how much this is going to move when we bank the wheels side to side. It shouldn't be drastic, but I left myself some room if I have to move that a little bit. So I've got an out if I need it. So the next thing I need to do is remember what on earth I was doing here. Get my connectors terminated for these, and we'll go from there. I know I've got wiring coming to the back. I've got wiring going all in here. But let's start with just the simple thing. Let's just get the handlebars wired and put back together. Let's start with that. For just a moment, I have this sitting roughly where she goes. Looks like right there. So you can see why we picked the location for the wiring harness. Nice, safe, out of the way, should be well protected. That's the hope. I'm assuming this is an on-off valve for the fuel system. So let me get that bundled back up and put away, and we'll continue. Kind of going through, sorting stuff out, seeing what I've got to work with. Here's my connectors, so I'm getting closer to that. Looks like I was working on wire harnesses. Oddly enough, it's been over a month, so I just need to refresh myself before I go terminating. I think I will also set the battery back in here, just remember exactly where I need to be, but I'm pretty sure I just needed to be right up in here. Don't forget there's a big oil cap right here. So let's go. Shop Dog's looking for that silly cricket. Okay. We've been kind of going through things, going over things. Had a shop dog emergency that we had to deal with, but we're back to it. There are a few wires here to terminate, but what I need to do now is determine how I'm dividing them connector-wise. I do believe these two are the actual headlight signals. So yeah, that'll be these two here, which we kept the factory style connectors. So if he changes this in the future, just boom, plug it right in. No problem at all. While he was visiting with his buddy neighbor Jeff, while they were doing that, I was going over, I've got one more of these to draw up right here, but it's 8 wires. You know, you can come over here. This bundle is 8 wires. This bundle is 8 wires, plus the 2 wires for the lights. So if I did a 9-pin and a 12-pin connector, that gives me plenty of cavities, because I'm going to use these guys. So that should work out pretty slick. We're making a little progress. I had a mistake, but I fixed it. So our 9-pin is now populated with the 8 signals. And we're getting ready to do the 12-pin. I have a disappointing bummer. I gotta trim all these guys back. So I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna relabel them, because they've already done their job. Because I have 3 yellows, okay, that one's labeled far enough back. I should probably redo low switch and move that back just to keep those. But unfortunately, that's that connector for the headlights. That's what I got. I wish it was a hair longer. Okay, so you can see I've got the front harness completely terminated now. I'm deciding how we're going to retain it, keep it from rubbing here, you know, this all, but still have access to the cap. There's still some work to do here, but let's get this end figured out, and then it's getting a little later than I want it to be. But I'm at least going to pull all those out for what do we got, 8 on the one and and 10 on the other. We'll get those 18 wires bundled and segregated and trimmed back. I don't think I will go much further tonight. We'll see. Alright, I think I'm wrapping it up for the night. We've gotten quite a bit done. Some cleanup. This was a good couple hours. So our handlebar wiring is done to this point, and we've got it segregated. Don't forget, we got to add the grounds because I just couldn't trust that I was going to get a good ground for these, so we did bring a ground wire down. You know, if you're already running wires, what's the difference? So I think I'm going to wind up right here, drilling a little hole for one of my retainers, and then we'll have some kind of a buffer here, you know, some like a bit of hose weather strip glued in or something, just so that that can't ever be an issue. But that will push this over here and bring everybody around like that, so that you can still get in here and do the oil. Like I said, I've got these two harnesses segregated. The only other things coming off of this harness are, of course, the rear, you know, left and right turn signals. Those go, where are they? Yeah, these guys here. And then I can start wiring this stuff down low for the license plate and brake light. I've got to figure out where that brake switch mounts. It's on a hose. It should be in here-ish. So that'll be these wires. Obviously got to get the ignition stuff all wired in. Oil pressure sensor. Not much more. Gonna have to rebuild the battery cables. Weren't happy with those. I think we've talked about those in previous videos, but we'll get those rebuilt. Obviously the heaviest one is this one here, and you can see not happy. Shouldn't be too hard to remake that. This really is the biggest load, is the starter. Everything else is pretty minor. Obviously this is gonna have to get mounted when they redo the wheel, get the belt and all that in there, because that mounts right here as one of these spacer points. So not something we're dealing with. Yeah, here's that brake switch right here. You can see it. So the other big thing, of course, is I've got to get the ignition wired in and the magneto. Outside of that, there probably isn't much. After that, get the handlebars back together. So I'm gonna try real hard to get this done this weekend. We will see. This is either the end of the video or I shoot some more tomorrow. Welcome back to any fans out there. Get it? Anyway, it's the next day. Been kind of working here. We have this end terminated. We have this end terminated. I'm curious, instead of drilling a hole here and doing something there, can I actually get something here that would hold these out of the way and keep them safe? So I'm going to explore that. And then you can see, as far as the rest of this harness, obviously main battery feed to the computer, left and right rear turn signals, and some grounds. That's all that's left coming from here through this. Now, there's other signals. We'll go to them one at a time. So a few things have been solved. Okay, I've got a battery sitting in here. This is the turn signal for the right. This is the turn signal for the left. They have to dump right here to go into these little channels inside the fender. So see, this sits right up there. Those will go right in here and come out, and you can see where they are relative to that back hole. So those will go into that channel, which is here, and come out, you know, roughly right here, a little higher. And then that is what they're going to have to wire into these guys here. There's not a lot I can do about those right now, because these have to be installed. I mean, I may, because the fender has to really be in. I don't know, I'll deal with that in a little while. I probably going to just blind cut that so it doesn't short on anything, and just tape these out of the way. Brian can install those when all of this goes in. Okay, kind of like the next thing I think I've got to solve, of course, is the tail light, which is these three here. So I've got these guys, so that's brake, blue must have been, you know, running light, and of course you have to provide a ground, and I wasn't going to trust this ground for these LEDs. Unlike the light bulbs, the LEDs are a little more sensitive to ground. So yeah, you can see here, blue, red, black. I may put a connector on that. I think that's going to be my smart choice, but if you recall, I'm worried that that thing will be sitting here and just go and start facing down. So one of the things we've got to do is we have a screw hole here. Can we make something to get that on there? Don't know yet. We're going to learn. So that's on my list. So I've got to get this wired. I consider these wired. I just need to trim them, and they can run them when it's time. And they're labeled, you know, right turn, left turn. Okay, here's 3 of my grounds. Go here. I do not have whatever goes from here to here to hold the battery down, but I'm assuming it's like a little rubber strap or something. That's what it looks like. I need, so that gives me this volume in here. I need to get power from here to the starter, from here to the ignition, from here, obviously here, and we'll go from there. I think I've got one other thing I have to pre-power. Oh yeah, of course I do. I have to power this module here from the voltage regulator, so that's got to get powered. So got all that. These right here, if you come around, you see they're coming from the computer, and that's the starter, the input switch, because remember I got to get the switch. So this is the starter solenoid. This white wire I thought was okay. Yep, that's the coil, so that'll go up over here as well, because as soon as I get the rear figured out, then the next thing I want to figure out, obviously, let's get this wired in, and let's get these coming up. I have these wires coming from the digital ignition, which is hiding behind this cover. So, you know, you pull 2 screws and pop that up. It can change the timing a little bit. So that is these wires here. Seems to be a lot of them. I gotta go back over and figure out what was what. I know that's one of the banks. I think that's a coil. I believe this just gets ignition. Don't know about the other 2. One of them will be the other coil, probably the green. So don't know what the violet is. I'll look it up. But all of that's got to get done, and that will be right up in here, because if you recall, this is mounted right there. So all of that will be here. We'll have spark plug wires there. The ignition switch will be right here inside that cap. So some of these will go up to that as well. The ground is on the case, but when I temporarily install the starter for lining it up, we're going to make a temporary ground, because it still would just ground here anyway. So that'll just be temporary stuff. Still have to extend that from the magneto. Shouldn't be a big deal, and we'll heat protect it. So there actually isn't a lot of wiring left. Oh, and got to build a couple battery harnesses. I think one of the very next things I can do is, once I have that figured out, in fact maybe even before I have that figured out, might be time to put these guys back together. I don't see it coming off again. ShopDog says it's a little warm today. Gardens are doing good, but we gotta get back to work. It's been a few hours, so back at it. There's a good chance that we don't have something routed right. It seems like a lot of cable, but this is on. It's obviously not adjusted. But there's that. So there's a start. Gonna get the other one on there. Still thinking on that. Haven't decided how I want to approach that yet. And this segment's called, What Obvious Thing Am I Missing Here? You see that cross shaft? It's not very big. You see this? This was all on here. Okay. This little spacer fits in there pretty good. The problem is that. You know what this fits? That would fit that. But that's not where that goes, is it? I'm having a hard time believing it goes in here anywhere. It's not like we have enough extra space and it wouldn't fit anyway. So if this is supposed to mount here, how? As it is, the amount of slop is unbelievable. You can see that. I had the spacer. Okay, let's one-hand that. Well, you get the concept here. Look at that. So I still need a spacer on a spacer? There's something I don't know. Gonna have to save that one. I'll get the wiring for it. I don't know that I'll have it mounted. I'm definitely deciding already that there will be a connector. So I'm thinking about what I want to do with the tail light, because that does not mount the way I thought it did. Moved on to something else. Just made a different bracket here. So remember, this is the wiring for the ignition. Here is the wiring coming up for one, turning on the, enabling the ignition, but also the power switch, the key switch. This is starter solenoid. This is the oil feed. So might as well get those up, and we know it gets hot here, so we're using the shielded cover. Going to do the same over here, just like we did right here. It looks like I can route all of that. Remember, if you recall, we already determined that we can put a nut on that. So I think if we come up along the jugs here, as long as we're in thermal wrap, I think we're going to be pretty good. Remembering this hangs right there, so shouldn't be too bad to hook all that up. It's, not going to be fun to do these bolts, but that was never going to be fun. Alright, I have wasted a ridiculous amount of time trying to figure out what this was. It is quarter 28. I have been through every bin, every box, every drawer. I don't appear to own any of those. So, gonna have to go buy one of those, because I really want this to be retained right here, so that it's not doing this, it's not getting stuck in any belts, no problems. I want no problems. So that's going to show you where that's going to wind up. And then, here, let me move this towel. I'm not sure why there isn't tape here. We'll put a heat shrinker on the end there, but all of this will come up. And you can see where that sits. And then remember, this little guy right here is what we're going to be up against. Oh boy, we had it out once before, but you can see once we're looking at it, here is this face. Here, I'll just bring it over and you can see what's going on. So this awkward chrome piece rides the face like that. So you can see that. So it rides like that. So that shows me that these locations, which are here, 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 and here, are not in my way, which is great. So I may even try to grab that. I really don't want to back this one off. I really want to jam nut it if I can, since it's acting as a stud, because I don't know what that bolt is. It could be important. It could be torqued to something. I don't know these engines, and I don't think I want to mess with it. Alright, that kind of shows what my clearances look like. I've just got sitting on the bearing here. It's not drawn in. I don't know what happens if I do draw it in, so I'm not going to. So that shows me just how much room I've got here. No problem. And then this is the original ground, I actually don't even know if that would reach. It might, you know, for the chassis ground. I'll have to temp that up, because this cable's in good shape. There's nothing wrong with this one. But the one on the starter, it is not in good shape. However, like I said, might not actually reach now, because the battery's backwards for whatever reason. And much as we suspected, it wouldn't have mattered if this wasn't bad. It's not going to go where it needs to go. It really used to come here, and I'm going to want it over there. So luckily we're rebuilding that cable anyway. Don't know that we're going to do whatever they did here. Not sure. Heck, that might have been the main power feed for the whole bike. Don't know. But we'll do something a little nicer as far as all that goes. In fact, at some point I guess I better see how these even connect. Looks like a screw here, and maybe we can get some screws from some other sides. So, okay. I saw a drawer with stuff like that. There was a drawer like that. Yeah, right here. I'm betting some of this stuff come in handy for that. I'll have to look and see what's common, because obviously the type of terminal I would prefer for a car isn't going to mount in here. And that shows how simple this is going to be. There's that one, and then that's just a spade here. So that gets pretty straightforward. Like I said, so I got to build that cable. This is all sorted out. I've got to go buy this nut to do this clamping. But this is everything that needs to come up here. A couple of these signals we don't even care about. This vehicle doesn't have that vacuum operated switch, which I think is the violet wire. There's something else it doesn't have. Let's look it up. So when I go over their little drawing, there was more stuff going on than we needed. So, okay. We don't have a tack, and we don't have VOS. Tack that green wire. We are going to probably put something he can get at on that in case he ever wants it in the future. But we don't need that. Yeah, because he doesn't, at least at the moment, he doesn't have a tack. So we just need the coil wire, you know, which is the 12 volts from our system, which goes here. So our coil wire from our system is white and black. So these two wires are going to go to the center here. And then blue and pink are the two we care about here. And it looks like green and purple are the two we don't care about off of here, violet and green, right, which would be your MSD colors, you know, if this is an MSD box. I'm not going to get rid of these. We'll just short do them and shrink wrap them in case he ever wants to add that feature in the future. So, and then these two just go to the key. So those will be right there. So getting this put together is going to suck, but getting it wired is not going to be too bad. So this should go pretty smooth. I think that wraps up motorcycle for tonight. I got a couple other things I want to get accomplished. So you can see all of this looks nice. We'll get back on the motorbike tomorrow, and we'll see how far we can get this weekend. But I think that's going to wrap up this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Be real happy. Look at these cute little tomatoes.